Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving into some truly difficult but, well, incredibly important source material that you've shared with us. This deep dive focuses on a recent tragic event from Greater Noida concerning the devastating impact of dowry demands. It's a heavy topic, for sure, but one that really demands our clear understanding.
It really does. And what's, fascinating here, especially looking at the multiple sources you provided, is how we can piece together not just the immediate facts of what happened, but also the broader societal implications of such a horrific case.
Right.
Our mission for you today is to move beyond just a simple news report, to extract those crucial nuggets of knowledge, giving you a clear, insightful understanding without, overwhelming you with information. We want to connect the dots for you, from the immediate tragedy right through to the wider context.
Exactly. And we know this isn't easy listening. The details are quite stark. But being well informed about such persistent societal challenges is, well, it's absolutely necessary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about shining a light on realities that truly demand our attention, not just as a news story, but as a critical societal issue.
Precisely.
So let's start with the central, heartbreaking event itself. The material you brought us paints a really stark picture of a woman named Nikki Bhati, described as being in her mid-30s. What happened to her is almost unthinkable. She was brutally tortured and then set on fire.
Just horrific.
This horrifying incident, as reported, occurred right there at her in-laws' home in Greater Noida. And perhaps the most profoundly disturbing detail of all. This assault happened in front of her young son. He was just 6 years old,
Yeah.
and it was also tragically caught on video.
It's hard to even process that level of brutality, especially with a child present. I mean,
Yeah.
when we look at cases of domestic violence, the presence of a witness, particularly a child, it just profoundly amplifies the tragedy. Beyond the immediate physical harm to Nikki, we're looking at immense, lasting psychological trauma for a 6-year-old boy. What's critical here, from a legal perspective, is that this kind of direct eyewitness testimony from a child, especially corroborated by video evidence, is incredibly rare in these types of domestic abuse cases. It doesn't just solidify the tragic narrative, it provides undeniable proof, makes it much harder for defenses to create doubt, unlike cases reliant solely on circumstantial evidence or maybe adult testimony, which can be more easily challenged.
And what that child witnessed and subsequently told the police is absolutely chilling. The reports you provided recount his testimony directly. They first poured something on Mama, slapped her, and then set her ablaze with a lighter.
Oh, wow.
Hearing a 6-year-old articulate that horror, it's the statement that just chills you to the bone, isn't it?
It truly is. And that raw, unvarnished testimony from a child, combined with the visual evidence, well, it leaves no room for doubt about the heinous nature of the crime committed.
None at all.
This level of evidence is crucial not just in ensuring justice for Nikki, but also in shaping public perception. When people see and hear the unedited truth from such an innocent source, it often galvanizes the community in a way that, more abstract reports might not.
So if that's the horrifying what, the why behind this horrific act, according to your sources, points directly to persistent and escalating dowry demands. This wasn't a sudden, isolated incident. It appears to be a culmination of ongoing pressure. The specific demand cited in the reports was an additional 36 lakh.
Additional amount.
Yes. And what makes this even more shocking, as your material highlights, is that at the time of the marriage, significant gifts had already been provided. We're talking about a Scorpio vehicle, a Royal Enfield Bullet motorcycle, and other unspecified valuable gifts.
Right.
So this wasn't a situation where the family hadn't complied. A substantial dowry had already changed hands.
And this really connects to the bigger picture of how dowry operates in many parts of society despite being illegal. For our international listeners, just for context, 36 lakh is approximately, 43,000 US dollars.
Not that, yeah.
In India, that's a life-altering sum, enough to buy a decent apartment in some urban areas or maybe establish a significant business. The fact that this was demanded after substantial gifts like a Scorpio SUV and a Royal Enfield motorcycle were already given, well, it underscores a critical point.
What's that?
Dowry isn't simply a one-time transaction at the time of marriage. It often becomes a continuous demand, an insatiable cycle of greed, really.
Yeah, ongoing pressure.
Exactly, leading to sustained pressure, harassment, and, as we tragically see here, extreme violence. This highlights a system where a woman's worth is often tied to what she or her family can bring rather than who she is. And it exists despite India's Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, which makes both giving and receiving dowry illegal.
So the law exists, but
But the persistence of such demands, even after initial compliance, starkly illustrates the significant gap between the legal frameworks and these deeply entrenched, harmful societal norms.
that's a really powerful observation about that gap between law and social reality.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what deeper socioeconomic pressures allow such a system to just persist, even with legal prohibitions in place.
Precisely. It often comes down to a complex interplay of things like economic insecurity, cultural traditions, patriarchal structures, where a daughter's marriage is sometimes seen, unfortunately, as a financial burden or maybe an opportunity for financial gain rather than an equal partnership. The pressure on the bride's family to provide and on the groom's family to demand can be immense, from both internal family pressures and external societal ones.
The sheer horror of Nikki's story demands justice, and your sources reveal that legal wheels began turning almost immediately. Yeah. So what steps have been taken? What's happening now to bring the perpetrators to account?
Well, things did move quickly initially.
The husband, Vipin Bhati, he was arrested. And your reports detail quite a dramatic turn of events where he was allegedly shot in the leg by police while trying to escape custody.
Yes, that was reported.
He's now been placed in 14-day judicial custody. For those unfamiliar, judicial custody essentially means he's been remanded by a magistrate to prison while the investigation continues, rather than being held directly by the police.
Right. And what's particularly striking about this case is the swift and, well, rather dramatic police response, especially concerning the husband's arrest and that alleged escape attempt.
Yeah, it seems quite intense.
This kind of immediate high-profile action, complete with details like the alleged shooting during an escape, often signals the seriousness with which authorities are treating the case, especially when public outrage is mounting.
Okay.
It projects an image of decisive action, moving quickly from the crime to initial apprehension and legal processing for a primary suspect. It's a rapid progression from incident to legal detention, which, frankly, isn't always the case for every domestic violence complaint reported.
And it wasn't just the husband who was apprehended. Your sources also note the arrest of the mother-in-law, Bhati, also referred to as Daya, who is currently under police custody. However, other members of the accused's family, specifically the father and brother, are apparently currently on the run, with police actively searching for them.
And this detail about other family members being sought is crucial. It underscores that the investigation is ongoing and the police are actively working to bring all potential perpetrators to justice.
Right, not just the husband and mother-in-law.
Exactly. The fact that the father and brother are still at large indicates that the authorities are likely not viewing this as an isolated act by one or two individuals, but rather as potentially broader family involvement in the dowry demands and, ultimately, the violence.
Okay.
Their active pursuit suggests a commitment to a thorough investigation to ensure everyone complicit is held accountable for this heinous crime. And that's vital in cases stemming from systemic issues like dowry.
Now let's expand our discussion a bit to the wider societal impact and the reaction to Nikki Bhati's case. The outrage, as highlighted in your sources, is, well, it's palpable, starting directly with Nikki's own family.
Understandably so.
Her father's intense reaction, including his demand for bulldozer action against the accused home, truly conveys his profound outrage over the brutality his daughter endured.
Yeah, and this raises an important question, doesn't it? How does a specific case like this become such a powerful catalyst for a wider conversation about these deeply ingrained societal issues and the demand for accountability? The father's call for bulldozer action is quite telling. For our listeners who might not be familiar, this phrase refers to a symbolic call for swift, often quite controversial state action where properties of alleged criminals are demolished.
Right, it's become a loaded term.
It has. It's not just about property destruction. It's a demand for decisive, visible action against the perpetrators and, by extension, against the entrenched system of dowry that allows such atrocities to occur. It vividly demonstrates how a single tragic event can ignite public sentiment and push for broader, sometimes quite drastic reform.
And that outrage has certainly resonated far beyond just the family. Your reports emphasize how the case has, quote, reignited debate over dowry abuse and the need for stronger protections for women.
Yes.
It's clearly not just a fleeting news story. It seems to have sparked a deeper collective introspection about the state of women's safety and rights in the region.
Absolutely. And this widespread public sentiment connects directly to calls from leaders and citizens for swift justice and societal change. It highlights the collective desire for an end to such practices, demonstrating that despite the legal prohibitions against dowry, the social menace just persists. This collective voice, amplified through media and social discourse, is crucial. It's crucial for driving policy changes, maybe pressuring law enforcement, and fostering a societal environment where such acts are not just condemned, but actively prevented.
Right.
It pushes back against the insidious normalization of dowry demands.
This deep dive into the sources you shared on Nikki Bhati's case has been a profound and tragic journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
It truly reiterates the grim reality of dowry-related violence that, despite all efforts, continues to plague so many women, brought to light in such a stark and heartbreaking way here. Your bringing this material to us really underscores its ongoing relevance and the urgent need for understanding.
It does. This case, detailed across the multiple sources you provided, serves as a grim reminder that despite legal prohibitions, despite increased societal awareness, despite ongoing activism, the practice of dowry remains a life-threatening crisis for many women. So, as you reflect on this, perhaps consider, what does the continued prevalence of such acts tell us about the persistent gap between established legal frameworks and these deeply embedded social norms? And maybe more importantly, what role can individual awareness and collective action truly play in bridging that gap for a safer society?
That's a powerful question to end on, definitely one that stays with you. Thank you for joining us on this critical deep dive. We encourage you to continue seeking informed understanding on these vital issues.